Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 367 of A Yank on the Footy. I'm Craig Wessels coming to you from Sandusky, Ohio, and thanks for checking this episode out. This is the seventh of my preview episodes for 2025, and in just a moment, I'm going to be joined by Duck from the Purple Rain podcast as we preview the Fremantle Dockers for 2025. And Duck's been with me a couple of other times as well. Does a phenomenal job with his show, and I'm really looking forward to hearing all things Dockers because, they are a very, very trendy pick to do very well this year. So don't forget, folks, you can find everything about my podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. I do hope you'll consider heading over there and subscribing for the mailing list so that when new episodes come out, they'll be in your inbox very, very soon. Also, if you enjoy the show and you'd like to leave a review, that would be fantastic as well. Okay, you can also go to my YouTube channel and subscribe there. That would be fantastic. Click that like button and turn on those notifications. And I'm also starting to fill up my back catalog and these new episodes, the previews I'm putting over on my Rumble channel as well, which is another YouTube adjacent platform that maybe isn't quite as restrictive as YouTube has had a tendency to be. Not that there's anything controversial with my show, of course, except for my bad tips that happened during the course of the season. So again, you can find everything related to the podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. Give me a follow over on X at yank_on. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn as well. And let's go ahead and jump into my chat with Duck from Purple Rain, and let's talk some footy about the Fremantle Dockers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my guest for our Dockers preview for 2025 is no stranger to this podcast. He's one of the hosts of the Purple Rain podcast, and I am absolutely stoked to have Duck back with me. Duck, how are you doing on this Saturday evening, sir?
Yeah, good, Craig. How are you, mate? It's a bit hot over here in Perth. I don't know what the temp's like where
Well,
you are.
it
But
is
it's
well, let's just say about a week and a half ago, we were down to a negative 35 Celsius wind chill.
nice, nice. Well,
Yeah.
we had a bit of a heat wave. We had 40 degrees
Yeah.
throughout the week, and it's 24 at the moment. It's when that heat doesn't go away that it's when it does become tough.
Yeah.
And mate, I'm stuck out in my little office, and I realize there's no real. I've got like a window cracked open, and I'm
Yeah.
sweating it up a bit.
But
But
20,
no, it's all good, man.
24, and I'm not sure how you would feel about this, but if I could live somewhere where it was 24 Celsius an average like year round, I'd be perfectly content with that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where I think our winter and autumn in particular is really
Yeah.
beautiful. Like it's just never rain. Like autumn is I think people underrate how good autumn is in
Hmm.
Perth. It's like you'll get days that are like 26, 27, but it's generally like 18 to 25. Never
Hmm.
rains. Never rains in autumn. Like it never rains in autumn in Perth ever. And look, in saying that, it'll probably piss down this year, but it never rains in autumn, mate.
Well, I think they've got most of the cricket is done for out there for this year, is it not?
Yeah, it's
So
they're just look the women just won the Ashes
I
16
saw
nil
that. I saw that.
in there how they do their point system, and the men just wrapped up in Sri Lanka. It was actually 2 minutes apart. So I was just keeping an eye on those. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's been a mate, it's the Border Gavaskar trophy has been it's really engrossed most of the nation. And when we have like big series like against England or against India, and India are probably like what it's like to have a
Hmm.
rivalry. You actually need to have teams that are competitive against each other. So because
Right.
India are very competitive in Australia and it's very hard to win in India, it makes it really enjoyable to watch. But we're not here to talk cricket, mate. It's
Well, I've
it's
actually
pretty fun.
I've actually started to follow cricket quite a bit over the last couple of years as well. So I've
Oh,
I
brilliant sport. It's the
yeah.
best. It's
I
Test match cricket is up there with one of the great pastimes. Like I think people don't realize it's like listening to a podcast a bit. It's a passive thing to
hmm
do. You're never actually watching it, you're just keeping an eye on it.
Yeah,
But the
I
TV's always on or the radio's always on or it's something it's really, really enjoyable and it's very relaxing as well. It's just like a real slow game at times,
Right,
which
right.
that's the challenge of it. It's not go go go. It's patience
Yeah,
and
I started watching
fortitude and stuff like that.
I started watching cricket backwards though. I began with T20 cricket. So
Ah,
I started there and have, and I have
oh, cricket for dummies.
my
Yep.
Cricket for Dummies book, and I actually had, Tom Dunmore, who was one of the authors. I had him on my podcast because he was one of the people that helped to get the what they call Major League Cricket here in the U.S. up off the ground a couple of years ago.
Nice.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, I've really gotten into it a tremendous amount. In fact, I was a huge baseball fan, and back in the fall here, back in October, I vividly remember this. My wife was in watching, the series right before the World Series. The New York Yankees were playing the local team, the Cleveland Guardians. They used to be the Cleveland Indians, and she's in the bedroom watching that game, and I'm out in the family room watching Nepal and Bangladesh playing cricket. So I mean, I've really taken the dive into cricket as well, and really really enjoying it. I've started to just dabble a little bit into the test cricket, and it's you're right. It isn't all the, I don't have the time to sit
Yeah.
down
No,
to
and that,
do, yeah.
I think that's the hard thing, Craig. Is that people think that you just sit down and watch it the whole day. You
Hmm.
don't. You go in, you go out, and look, the Great Australian Day is Boxing Day,
Right,
and
right.
it's you get up, you get like in Western Australia, you get up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's on, and it's like you just get up and you slog around the couch because you might be a little bit hungover, you might be a little bit. It's a Christmas Day is a big day. It's always hot. You start watching the cricket, you have a few leftovers,
Yeah.
you look through your presents, you might catch up with some other mates and things like that, or some other family that you didn't see on Christmas Day. But generally, it's a brilliant day, and I mean, it's one of the sporting holy grails to go to Boxing Day and go to like a Boxing Day Ashes Test or a Border Gavaskar Trophy Test match. That's prime time. That's really good. So
Yeah. And
it is good fun.
I didn't see the specifics, but as I was scrolling through Code Sports today, there was like the first female to get her name up on the
Yeah, Annabelle Sutherland.
MCC
Yeah, yeah,
board. Yeah,
yeah,
for
yeah.
getting a century,
Brilliant. And
and it sounds like people are
Freem,
upset about that.
oh,
That
people
her name's
suck,
going to
man.
be up
Like,
there, and
yeah,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
People, they suck, man. So yeah, look, Alana King and Beth Moody, who I believe are both West Australians. I think Beth
Hmm.
Moody's West Australian. I feel like she is. But Alana King definitely West Australian, leggy, like genuinely one of the best leg spinners in the world.
Hmm.
She's bowling beautifully, and it's one of those ones where like you start to think, and this might be crazy, but you start to think like, how would this girl go against blokes? Like, how would she
Yeah.
go? Because leg spin is it's one of those things you don't have to bowl fast. You just have to flight it. She gets great drift. She gets really good turn. She lands it on a dime,
Hmm.
and she got 5 wickets, so she goes up on there. And I think Eccleston from England as well. She's an offie. She goes up there as well. She got five. So I think it's awesome, and to have that game at the G, and they got good crowds there. They got really good crowds for all the one day stuff and all the T20 stuff. So it's just a pity that the Poms were pretty pathetic. They literally don't know how to catch and things like that. So the guy blamed it on the weather. I don't know if you managed to catch that, but
I did not see that. Yeah.
the English coach said Australia are naturally better because of the climate and the fact that we spend our weekends at the beach and things like that. So, look, there is a truth to it as well, but
Oh.
it's also like, mate, you're a professional. Like, it's professional sport now. Like, get with the times. Like,
Yeah.
you can't make excuses like
Well, I
that.
mean,
But
they could theoretically, I guess, if they wanted to train on the beach in Australia, they could probably come train down here and learn to catch the
well,
ball as
most of
well.
the girls from the England team play in Australia anyway, in the
Hmm.
Big Bash. Sure, they play year
Right,
round.
right.
So it's just one of those things where they just drop catches, and as the old saying goes in cricket, and probably the same in baseball, catches win matches, right?
Yeah.
And what I like to tell kids as a teacher, I like to say, but just remember, matches burn down houses, so
Yeah.
keep them out of the reach of children.
There you
You
go.
got to
Yeah.
remember that one. That's always a
Yeah,
good banter, mate. When
it's like
people
it's
say catches win matches, boys. Anyway, let's get into this
Yeah,
footy,
but
mate.
I have to I tell my since we have such bad weather here and I teach high school, so I've got new drivers as students. And I always tell them, I said, my dad used to have advice when you were driving in really bad weather and snow and things like that. And I said, I do not want you to do not follow this. But he always used to say that when you find yourself driving in bad weather, go as fast as you can. That way you spend less time in it.
I
I
mean,
said,
it's
do
not the
not
worst
follow. I
advice.
said, do not follow that advice at all. You know, yeah, he was rarely sober and was dead at 59, so don't follow his advice at all. So
Uh,
yeah. So we're here to talk about your Dockers, but before we look at 2025, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that was the last four rounds of 2024, because everybody, I don't know if you're a Tom Petty fan, if you're familiar with that musician, but he had a great classic song called Free Fallin'. And I'll tell you
yeah,
what, they could have just, they could overdub that song with highlights of the last four rounds for the Dockers last
yeah.
year, and just, because you were primed. I'm sure you were thinking, okay, who are we going to match up with in our first round of the finals? And you're thinking, what the hell happened?
Yeah, well, you go into the last month of footy and thinking, we can finish second, third, fourth.
Yeah.
If we get a prelim, that'll make the season fantastic. And then to finish the way we finished and to lose all four of those games, and look, they were tight games,
Hmm.
1 point, 11 points, 9 points, and 20 points.
Right, right.
And realistically, the season was on the line in that last game going into Port Adelaide. We sat in the press box and watched as St Kilda beat Carlton, and the crowd, it came alive. The crowd came alive. There's a real buzz. There's like, this game means something because we needed Carlton to lose, and then
Hmm.
just the way it finished and that real bitter taste in the mouth. And you could see the players were real dirty on themselves. And look, in the end, it was, it's probably the Essendon game, the one that cost us. The fact that we let a clearance go straight out of the middle, out the front door. It's the only thing you don't want. We're comfortably ahead. And then to lose those games at home at the end as well, you've got to win at home, and that's just a fact of the matter. That's just how footy is nowadays. I thought we'd put in a really gallant effort against a really strong Greater Western Sydney side.
Yeah.
To only lose by 9 points to those guys again, and to end up with 12-1 and 10 and to not make the finals, it's just, yeah, it's a bit of a heartbreaker. And
Yeah.
and look, even if you go back as far as the draw against Collingwood, where Jeremy Sharp is running into goal and misses, and we draw the game. So it's a game of inches, this game that we play, and we were really, it was hard to lose that Carlton game during gather round,
Hmm.
where they gave away the mark that wasn't a mark, and then a free kick because Jordan Clark gave the umpire an earful, or what he thought he heard, and then to lose to Port Adelaide again. We're ahead, to lose by 3 points, over there
Yeah.
in Adelaide. Again, it's just, they're the games that really are heartbreakers, and it's just little things. And again, we always talk about how young a side we are, and we are a young side, but
Hmm.
it's time that it's time that we start reaping what we sow, because we've put a lot of games into a lot of young guys, and we've got a really strong core of a list, but we've topped up with Shea Bolton, and now's the time that it's time to really get into those, like we were in 2012, 13, 14, 15, and playing consistent preliminary finals and winning a flag, hopefully, out of one of those, which is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is. And you were your club was kind of a trendy pick to play finals last year,
Mm,
and there's a lot of people that are saying the exact same thing again this year. And I read somebody who on X this morning who ran through their ladder prediction, and maybe it's a little early for a ladder prediction as you're waiting on injuries and such. And I did see that earlier today, Alex Pierce dinged up his ankle at training today. So um, this person I believe had Fremantle finishing number two on the ladder, um, behind is it behind Brisbane? I think it was he had Brisbane, then Fremantle, then Geelong. in the top three. I don't remember who he had four, but
Yeah.
he was basically saying, that you know, that
Yeah, I think
this.
Craig, look, realistically, the competition's so even now. There's three or four bad teams every year, and
Hmm.
all the rest are pretty much of a muchness. So, we've got to keep getting better. Our young guys need to keep improving. There's a few guys who they're probably at their peak, and there's a couple of young guys that we need to continue to improve. And you've got to have injury luck more than anything now. Like you've got to be lucky with injuries, and
Right, right.
you can get injuries, but you just can't get injuries to guys that really matter to your team. For us, it was Alex Pearce, and it was Brennan Cox to an extent. Those guys both being injured, and then Brennan Cox was injured for such a long time that he really had a pretty poor year when he came back. Like coming off a
Yeah.
16-week hamstring, you're never going to have a good year. And losing Josh Tracy right at the end of the year, that was just a heartbreaker because you could tell when we were in the change rooms after the game when they lost that last game. And look, those last four games, like Josh Tracy, I think went off against Essendon halfway through the game, and like he's the kind of guy you just build a club around. Like, and he now has the confidence. And meeting him a couple of times, like he was walking around after that game, like if I'm playing, we're winning. Like, and he's he's
Hmm.
he's like a big dog now. And look, he's a really interesting story. We got to interview him over Christmas time, and the club put it out. If anyone wants to watch it, it's on Dockers TV. But essentially, his draft stories during COVID, Dockers took a chance on him. He went in the rookie list, and he's just turned out to be an absolute gun. And look, it's maybe if it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't have had him because he probably would have got picked up earlier. So,
Right.
he's an absolute gem of a player, and it's the first time since I've been a Fremantle fan that you can really say we've got two key forwards with Jai Miss and Josh Tracy, and they just look like they're really good mates, and they look like they know how to move forward. You got Luke Jackson as well. You got Shea Bolton. So you've got four guys there who are absolute guns and are really, really top echelon. And it's very rare that you can say that about Dockers, especially when it comes to their forward line. It's very rare we have two good players, in the forward line, let alone
Yeah,
four,
yeah.
potentially five or six. So we're really up and about at the moment.
Do you do you think that Shea Bolton is going to make enough of an impact to warrant the cost of getting him to Fremantle?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
it's the big thing is, Craig, that and Xavier Ellis is really great. He's a really great pundit over here in Western Australia. Like he put it as clear as day. It's like, what are we going to do with the draft picks? They're going to play at Peel for the next couple of years. Like we're desperate for a premiership.
Hmm.
We got to go all in, chips in with this team, and all like the one of the things that we were missing was a really good key forward. Sonny Walters is on his last legs. He had a really downward trend last year, and he's just lost that yard of pace, which is his X factor.
Right, right.
Yeah, Michael Frederick, he's there and thereabouts. Guys like Bailey Banfield and Sam Sturt, they are okay, but they're not that top echelon. A 40 goal a season player that we don't usually have, and in a small forward. We've had Farmer before, and Ballantyne and Medhurst and Walters, of course, but we really need that guy in our forward line, and a guy who can potentially run through the mids. And he's nicked his calf apparently, which is very, very stressful news for Dockers fans, especially after we thought Harley Bennell was going to be the guy who very similar type player.
Hmm.
30 plus touches, kicks goals, stuff like that. But I've watched Bolton at Optus, mate, and he is just out of this world. Watching him live
Yeah.
is something different again. And he can jump on blokes' heads, he can be one out, he'll beat you on the ground. So look, we're really, really excited. As a club and a base, I think it's something that the Dockers fans were like, "Yep, let's do it." This is chips in. We're going all in, and we might as well, because if we keep being the youngest side that just does nothing, it really does nothing. Like, I think the fans that excuse is waning on them a bit. It's waning on me. I'm like, oh yeah, we've got the youngest list. Who cares? Let's win.
Yeah, I was going to
Let's
say
just
because
win games. Let's make finals. Let's win games.
you're seeing you're senior players, if you will, on the side. I mean, you're only going to have five players on the north side of 30 by the time the
Yeah,
season ends this year. I mean, it's yeah, or I guess actually four because Aish won't quite be 30 yet, but it's
Yeah,
still,
and most of
so
those guys, to be honest, if they're playing, lots of games, we're potentially in a bit of trouble. Like that might sound a bit crazy, but like,
no,
guys like Fife and
O'Meara,
Fife Walters, uh, I think who would it be?
Jaeger
O'Meara,
O'Meara, yeah,
O'Meara, yep,
and
Aish.
Pierce is the other one, yeah.
Yeah, Pierce is the one that's important. The other
Hmm.
four, like you honestly that they'll be important for the team, but you could really take them or leave. And I think Fife is just, yeah, it's I don't know. I've got this, like, I don't really like Fife that much. I'm not a big Fife lover like a lot of
Yeah.
Freo fans are. So I mean, people have heard my takes on Fife. Sometimes they get I'm a bit too harsh, but I think in reality, you take away the name and you've got a midfielder who's slow, poor possessions, not really super defensive, um, can't kick goals, averages 15 to 20 touches a game. Like, in what world is that guy playing many games, But on the other side, we were, our clearances, we were the number one clearance side in the competition. And
Hmm.
that's because Fife and his big body.
Yeah.
It's also because Caleb Sarong and Andy Brayshaw are bloody good as well. Like
Right. Right.
it's not
Yeah.
just Fife, but it's just, again, it's a lot of name for Fife at the moment. He won two Brownlows, championed the club. He'll probably go down as the second greatest player at the club when he retires after
Hmm.
Pav. He won't overtake Pav. He'll never be loved like Pav. But I think that the thing is that if we win a flag this year, he might be out the door. But unfortunately, I think he had knee surgery. Him and Walters both had knee surgery, and that's the thing. He plays such a combative style of football that his body isn't really letting him continue. And like he
Yeah.
can talk about LeBron James and Roger Federer and trying to be this and that, but in the end, and Tom Brady, like, what footy
Well,
players are like. They're like. They're like they're like running backs. They've just got to keep smashing into the hole, and
I'm
that's the style he plays.
I'm not going to, yes, Tom Brady played into his mid 40s, but I'm not going to lump him in with some of these other athletes only because the NFL has rejiggered the rules for the game that
Mm.
even if you look at a quarterback the wrong way, they're going to throw a roughing the passer penalty at you. So
Yeah, that's it.
they don't. You're basically really not allowed to touch them. And if you
Yeah.
have to lay them down on the ground gently if you're sacking them. And if you land with your full body weight on them, oh, the quarterback might be hurt. I'm sorry, but you know what? Plant
Yeah.
him like a row of
And
corn.
look,
I'm sorry.
he's the he's the exception to the rule as well. You see how Rogers went this year. You see how Kirk Cousins went. You saw how
Yeah,
Breeze finished his, and
yeah.
Manning finished his, like their time.
Deshaun Watson.
It's a sharp cliff, man. They
Oh
fall off
yeah,
it pretty
yeah.
quickly, and and it's yeah. Look, it's a little bit of an interesting thing, but look, it'll be interesting to see how Fife goes this year because. Like you want him. He's never going to get back to prime Fife.
Right,
He's
right.
never going to get back there. But again, it's sometimes they do carry him, and that's the issue that you can't carry players in this stage. And the same thing happened with Sonny Walters. You carry him. He can't be a
Hmm.
sub. He doesn't get into the game. He needs time to get into the game, and then he's just lost that yard of pace. He'll kick you the odd goal here and there, but like when you're starting to put your best 22 together, and you just those guys father time's undefeated. So,
Yeah. So
you know,
do you think they get, and I mean, because Walters is sitting at 239 games, Fife at 240. Do you think they each get to 250 this year?
I don't think that Walters will.
Okay.
Fife will. Fife will play
Okay.
10 games. Yeah, Fife will
Okay.
play 10 games. Walters, if he plays 20 games
Well, he
and
only needs
he's
11. He only needs 11 to get to 250. But yeah.
he only needs 11.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe both of them will then. If both of them
Okay.
only need like 10, 11. Like, and
Okay.
I mean, I don't see the issue with those guys playing every second home game. I mean,
Hmm.
every second away game, sorry.
Right.
So they play, 3 and 5 or whatever it happens to be. But look, they're just, yeah, I just think we've got to be smart with guys like that. And if we do want them to have an impact, they can't play a 22 game season.
Right. I mean, and
If we
that's
really want them to have an impact down that pointy end, they've got to be playing just like Geelong do. Just get
Yeah,
them
I was going to say
cranking
that's
towards the
you look
back
at
end.
what they're going to be.
Mm.
If Patrick Dangerfield probably won't play more than 15 or 16 games this year, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
If he's
Yeah.
touch wood, if he stays healthy, I don't think. I think they'll rest him a lot. And they'll play him as needed.
Mm.
They're getting they're hopefully they're going to have Cam Guthrie back healthy, which is getting in and let's just be honest. I think the membership rates for any casual female Geelong supporter between the ages of like 17
Oh, with
and
Bailey
35
Smith.
have gone up
Yeah.
with Bailey Smith,
He's a
coming to the
gun.
club.
He's a gun. He'll be good, Big Bazza. No, he'll be very
Yeah.
good. So yeah, how they managed to get him under the salary cap. It's it's interesting. The Twitter birds are swirling around
Oh, yeah, they are.
around
They are.
Geelong and hang on, what's going on here? How do you guys have so many good players and how are you able to fit them under the salary cap and this and that? But look, I think every club makes it work.
Well,
So and the salary cap's just going to keep going up. If people forget that,
right.
it's going to go
Right.
up and up and up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be going up over the next couple of years. And you signed guys on like the Dockers have, which is really smart. There's certain guys that are on long-term deals that are
Hmm.
going to end up being quite cheap. We have got some guys that are on long-term deals that aren't going to be super cheap and
Right.
may not see out their long-term deals. But look, that's the risk you take with long-term deals, I guess.
So, you have what is arguably going to be on paper right now should be a tremendously successful season for the Dockers this year. But there are all these little rumblings that are going on that I've seen in the background that there's somebody who's thinking they may want to be heading west as well at the end of this year. And have you allowed yourself just a moment to just kind of look towards November of this year and figure out how the heck can we figure out how to get Kazi Pickett here as well?
Yeah, it's look, the mail was pretty strong that Cozzy Pickett was coming this year, and we're
Hmm.
going to trade the other first rounder for Cozzy Pickett, which that would have been a major to get Pickett and Bolton.
Bolton,
That would
yeah.
have been like close the gate, like it's over. But look, it'd be really great to get him. His stats don't lie. I think people are a really harsh critic on Pickett. He's an exceptional football player. He's a game winner. I would love to see him over there. I think over here for the Dockers, I think that Chad Warner's obviously the other one that would probably be the absolute cherry on top. But the
Right.
the strong word in the West is that he will be at the West Coast Eagles, unfortunately, due to they have a fairly large salary cap. I mean,
Yeah.
if I was the Dockers, I'd be like going, look, Chad. We'll bring you two, bro. We'll draft your brother. He's got a younger
Hmm.
brother playing at the moment, and we'll bring your other brother over, and we'll have all three brothers. Like, what does list spot 25 to 35 doesn't matter. If you got two extra Warners for the price of one Warner and you're all playing him a good wicket and making it out that way,
Well,
I'd do that
didn't I
because
see
Chad
didn't
Warner's
I
a
see
freak,
that Chad and his brother actually got into a little bit of a tete-a-tete during training recently, that they actually
Oh,
got into a
yeah.
fight?
Just brothers being bros,
Well,
mate. Just
okay,
brothers,
that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fair enough.
just
So,
brothers hanging out.
if you were to bring them, get him in here, and again, that's 2026. So we're not, yeah,
Mm.
it's just people would have to start maybe asking some of the similar questions about Fremantle that they ask about Geelong. How are you making this happen?
Oh mate, we've got some blokes that are literally paying to play at the club. We've got some guys on our list that are absolute stinkers, and
Hmm.
if they're getting paid more than 100, grand, you'd have to shake your head. But look, I mean, we make it work, don't we? And
Yeah.
again, the long-term deals, guys on long-term deals, front-ended, back-ended, you've got to remember we've been crap for a long time. So we were paying guys money that are, they were front-ended contracts and things like that. And they make it work well. And look, again, salary cap will go up and we've got guys
Right.
locked in on probably not that much money for long times. But look, we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I think Chad's probably a little bit. He actually will go to the Eagles because of the salary cap. That will be the big issue, because we don't have enough room for him. Because you pick it, yeah, we probably got room for him in the salary cap. But we gave up players. We've had to let players go, and
Hmm.
it's it's not what you want. You want to keep your good players. So guys like Blake Acres and things like that. Like we'd love to have Blake Acres still at the club. He's a solid winger. He was a solid contributor to the club, and
Right,
we let
right.
him go because we wouldn't give him $350,000 or something. Like we tried to lowball him. Guys like Jeremy Sharp, who have played not much, had played most of last year. He wouldn't be on much. Like he's a delisted free agent. So
Hmm.
I think sometimes when the club has power, they can really put the barrel over people. They can be like, mate, this is what we're giving you, and you can either
Yeah,
take it or you can go and play at Waffle. Like, and those guys all want to play AFL. So,
that's
it's kind of like
that's a good
you get
that's
those
a good
proven
point.
deals. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And looking at this season, we've talked about, the optimism and that you've put together a very solid club. But there have been instances where, John Longmuir has, people have talked about how his seat is a little warm. Is it? And again, I don't, I honestly, I have Fremantle going into my eight this year. I've not finalized it yet. I mean, I have a shocker going in that a lot of people are, and I saw somebody else put them in there as well. And I'll just go ahead and say it now. I think we're going to have a new Hawthorn this year. I think North
Who's
Melbourne is
that?
going to be this year. Is North Melbourne's going to be
I
this
don't
year's
know.
Hawthorn. I have a funny
Yeah.
feeling they are going to make the leap, and they may not get all the way to the eight, but
Yeah.
I think they're going to get darn close this year. But
I reckon Hawthorn are going to be no good this year.
you think
They
so?
surprised a lot of teams. Hawthorn won't be any good this year. They surprised a lot of teams. They rely on a couple, and people start to figure them out.
Yeah,
That's just what happens.
yeah.
Like when you surprise people, and look, it's yeah, it's I think Hawthorn are a team to maybe slide down, and yeah, North Melbourne could be on the rise. That's the thing. There's so many good sides. I think there's only a couple of poor sides like the Eagles, Richmond. Um, you know, who knows what Gold Coast
No,
will do.
you
Who
do.
knows how Sydney are going to go this year? But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the one I'm worried
Mm.
about too. You could have said Richmond first, but I know being out in WA, you had
Oh,
to mention
yeah.
that you had to say the Eagles
Mate,
first. I
poor old
know
Eagles, man.
that.
Like Yo got injured, Yo Reed and Baker all got injured. They can't
Yeah.
take a trick, those guys. Like they are literally cursed. Like whatever juju the Dockers had for a while, it's
Hmm.
all gone over to the Eagles. The Eagles, like, if they didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all. They are, and they went all in and
Right,
it
right,
backfired because
right.
they overrated their list. But then they've won four premierships, so they're a good club, and I think they'll bounce back in time. They just need to bottom out and they need to
Yeah.
get their picks right, which they haven't done. But enough about the Eagles.
You got looking at like just the first five rounds this year for you, you've got a bit of a mixed bag. So you start with the Cats. They'll be the Cats' second game because they're playing round zero again. I mean,
Yeah,
Cats have a lousy start to the season because they start in Brisbane and then they've got you guys coming to Geelong, and it seems like every time Fremantle comes to Geelong, Fremantle becomes, um,
yeah.
the
We like playing at the
you
Cattery.
you
We
you
do. We
guys
like
you
playing at the
guys tend to
Cattery,
have
and
our number there. So and then
yeah.
you got
Look, I
Sydney,
think
then you.
Yeah, I think traditionally we always matched up well against Geelong because we
Hmm.
had the two good defenders that can go on Hawkins and Cameron. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's look to play. We got Geelong then Sydney, do we? Jesus.
Yeah, Geelong, Sydney, then you got West
So
Coast and the Bulldogs and the Tigers. So you got a couple games that
yeah, so
I think you
if
can
we come out
safely
of
say are
that
getting you
three and 2,
eight points.
yeah,
And yeah, you could very easily come out of there, 4-1. You could come out of that
yeah,
5-0 also with the with
yeah,
the expectations you have. I mean, the Bulldogs, Treloar is going to be out for like the first 2.5 months of the season now as well that I saw.
yeah.
So there's and as you said,
Man,
I think
Bulldogs got that Sam Darcy kid from the Bulldogs. Oh, he's good.
yeah.
He's good. It'll be interesting to see if Jamara Ugle-Hagan plays at the start of the year as well. But their forward line's so good. It's just like they can actually. But he always kills us, Jamara Ugle-Hagan. He just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
every time he chops us up. But look, we'll see. The season is again it's down to those injuries. How many people have actually been able to do a full preseason? You said Pierce has maybe nicked his ankle a bit. Geez,
Yeah,
bit of a
it's what they
stitch up
said on
that is.
Code
But
Sports today. Yeah.
yeah, so like all those things, they do matter. They do matter, and getting off to a fast start will matter for us. And look, we started well last year, so that's just what we've got to continue to do. I think we're 3-0 the start of the year, and then before you know it, we're 3-3. But look, we've just got to make sure we make the most of every game. And even the derby isn't a certainty. Last year they just punched us right in the face, and
Hmm.
we were just like, what the hell? And we just couldn't handle it. And
Yeah.
that, like, the Eagles won. And like, again, another game that probably cost us dearly come the end of the season. That we thought we just, and this is the issue with the Dockers. Whenever we get ahead of ourselves and think we're just going to roll up and win, we never
Hmm.
do. We never do. We haven't in it since Ross Lyon left, essentially. Like, this group, just whenever they think they're too good for their own boots, they do forfeits of nothing. And they just rely on it. Everyone goes, oh, I thought, I got it, you got it. Oh, no one's got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What did you say earlier about, catching the ball? What was the
Catches win
yeah,
matches.
there you go. Catches win
Mate,
matches. Yeah, exactly.
next time you're at a baseball game, just when someone takes us a catch, just sing that out. People will be like, "Oh man, that's a great saying." It's the truth, man. Catches win
Yeah.
matches.
Yeah. So,
Catches win
um,
matches.
do you think that the club would kind of be better served if they went into get, and I understand how athletes could be confident, we're going well, we're training well,
Mm.
we're primed to be successful, but if they would kind of go, do you think that clubs would be better served if they went into um or went through the season kind of looking at the glass being half empty rather than half full? Because
Yeah.
it's, I mean, if you kind of think, maybe we're not quite good enough, that maybe would compel you to push a little bit harder, to not take your foot off the gas a little
Yeah,
bit, so to say.
it's a really hard thing to figure out, like whether or
Hmm.
not you pump blokes up or knock them down a peg or two, because realistically, again, it's one of those things that I think whenever the Dockers have expectations, like look at that last game, win and get in, and we just couldn't do it
Right.
against a Port Adelaide side that didn't really have much to play for, I don't think, if I remember correctly. Like, they didn't really, like, if they won, it didn't matter a great deal. I
Yeah.
can't remember, but like, and we lost. Like, the
Yeah.
game's on the line, you're at home, and it was our big paid players that didn't really show up. I think Luke Jackson had a bit of a shocker. Jordan Clark had a bit of a shocker. Caleb Sarong had one of his worst games. Jai Miss hardly touched it. So there's not much you can do when you haven't got your main guys. I think Sarong had 19 touches, which is well below his best. Young,
Hmm.
19 touches. What do we got here? Luke Jackson, 13 and a goal. You need that. You need him to stand up. So, when the whips are cracking and the big dogs to stand up and they don't, then you've got to have a little bit of a big hard look in the mirror
Well,
over the off season. And I think the players did burn a bit over the off season. There's a few guys that have got a bit to prove this year.
yeah, well, you mentioned, whether or not you should, in that type of situation, when I asked about the glass half full or empty, you said, that it's kind of a fine line to, whether you build somebody up or knock somebody down, and in many cases, it's not a one size fits all thing. It's you,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's it's based, so that's, when they talk about sports psychology working into things, there are different things that are, those motivators for student or for athletes. And you're a teacher, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
yeah.
I've
Yep.
been teaching
I'm a
for
chalky.
31
Yep.
years.
Yeah.
We can, I I'm at, what grade level do you teach?
I teach high school, so
So do
like,
I. So I mean, yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, I have kids in all four grades in high school. I tell my students, that I don't yell and scream. I'm
mm,
not somebody who's going to yell at a student in class. And I tell my kids, I said, I'm loud, but I don't
yeah,
yell. I'm demonstrative. I'm never going to yell at you.
mm.
We'll have a conversation in the hallway. I might suggest, ducking your head the next time somebody starts swinging the idiot stick, but but, I'm not going to yell and scream at you because, we don't know the baggage that the doctors don't know the baggage that all of their players are bringing to
Yeah,
training. We don't know the
yeah,
baggage that we don't know what our kids' lives are like outside of school. We don't know what goes on with them.
mm,
So you have to almost have some deference and just, try to find that sweet spot in terms of being able to build that relationship with, this student or this athlete or that athlete. So it's you know so for those folks who think that being a teacher is an easy job, you're full of shit. It's not. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's
Look,
um
it's one of those things, Craig, where like I mean, I remember very vividly my head of year, who was also my economics teacher,
mhm,
standing me like I graduated in 2005, so it's not that long ago. Like it is 20 years ago this year, but
yeah,
he stood me up and he hosed me in front of everyone, and
yeah,
he tore shreds off me, and he from that I actually became just it actually lit a fire under me
uh-huh,
like no one has before. And I credit everything that I've done in my academic life to that one moment and that teacher doing that to me.
yeah,
And look, you could do that to a kid and they turn to water. And you could,
right,
like you
right,
say, a coach could do that to a player and they go to water. They don't.
yeah,
So you've got to figure out, how do your players respond? What is it that they need? Do they need an arm around them? Do they need a
hmm,
rocket up their ass? What do they need?
yeah,
And I think that's where it's interesting that there will be certain players that when we do have the expectations, they'll step up, and there'll be players when the bright lights come on, they're like a startled deer. So it's a little bit of a tough one. And look, you only find out in the toughest situation who are your
right, right.
people who stand up.
And
But
we don't watching the games from afar through Fox Footy on the Watch AFL app, and not being able to see the machinations every week in and week out with Justin Longmuir. Is yeah, because he always, whenever they cut to him in the coach's box, you don't see him showing his displeasure like you would say with a Ross Lyon or a Chris
yeah.
Scott. Um, does he have that in him? Should it become
Yeah.
necessary for? Okay, so you
Yeah,
you've witnessed
but
that
it's
thing? Okay,
behind closed doors. He
okay, yeah,
knows
yeah.
that, like, you don't need to publicly embarrass anyone, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the hard thing, because the clubs only release. And look, we've been privileged that we've seen it like
Mm-hmm.
firsthand. We've seen him address the players and the players be locked in and all that kind of stuff. And the biggest issue with Justin Longmuir is that his press conferences are so bad. They're so boring.
Mm-hmm.
They're so, yeah, we try our best, and next week we'll try and win. And you just, like, the media isn't natural for him. He's a brilliant. I think he's a very good coach, and he's part of the reason why we managed to be in games at the end of last year.
Yeah.
A lot of people blame him for why we lost games, because all they see is this media personality that struggles to answer questions, that ums and ahs and yeah, and
Should
I think that costs him dearly, especially when you're falling up from Ross Lyon, who is,
yeah.
when Ross Lyon coached the Dockers, my favorite part of the game was Ross Lyon's press conference after the game. Like, like, that's just sick. And like,
Yeah.
you'd even look forward to it when we lost, because he was like just unbelievable, unbelievable. And just again, it's hard, because we've seen Just Longmire. The club released one little bit of media where they showed him like
Mm-hmm.
actually coaching,
Yeah.
and everyone was like, hell yeah, like, and it was after we'd won a couple of games, people were like, hell yeah, like, get around him, da da da. But then as soon as we lose, people blame him, and they're
Right. Right.
like, it's his fault. And that's the thing. Like, anytime we lose, no one ever puts a magnifying glass to any of the players and says, well,
Mm-hmm.
hang on, how about the guys that are actually out there kicking the footy and making the stupid mistakes and can't execute basic skills?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not Justin Longmuir's fault blokes are missing goals from 20 meters out.
So
That's not, he can't do anything there.
should somebody maybe create like a video montage of the few moments where Roy Kent got to be in front of the press on Ted Lasso and let him watch those?
Yeah, that's
But
it. Well, I
yeah,
mean, yeah. I think he's just, yeah, his media stuff is,
you know,
he's a bit of a quieter dude. He's a bit more of a reserved dude
yeah,
when you see him in front of
and
media,
there's
but
and
he's
there's
actually, there's that burning passion in him when he coaches. That's his comfort zone. And
right,
he's
right,
like, he's there, and
yeah.
he is very good. So
I
look,
remember,
this year will be make or break, mind you, in saying that, Craig, because
yeah.
if he doesn't make finals, he's done. He's out the door. So,
Okay,
and we'll get someone
that
else
was
in.
gonna that
Yeah.
was a question I was gonna get to,
Yeah.
but yeah, there was
Mm.
a when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL came into the league back in the 1970s, their first coach had been the head coach in the University of Southern California. They were a perennial college powerhouse team. The Buccaneers lost I think their first 26 games before they won a game, and they were god awful. Um, and I remember seeing a question and answer session with him and a member of the media, after his team had lost a game, and the reporter asked, well, Coach, what do you think of your team's execution today? And he just looked at him. He said, I'm in favor of it.
Mm, that's good. But that's, I mean, that's the other side of it, isn't Craig? It's like, how much does the coach have to blame for sloppy skills and stuff like that? Because isn't that like you win the
Yeah,
game on Monday to Friday?
yeah. You
That's where you're
can't you
winning the
can't
game. But
fire you can't fire the players.
yeah,
Yeah, you
mm,
can't fire the players. I mean, you
yeah,
can you can cut you can delist them at the end of a season, but you
yeah,
can't fire them mid-season. That's you're with
mm,
footy, you're kind of locked in. You don't you can as we saw with the other snake bit team in Perth the last few years, where Adam Simpson was driving through Hungry Jacks and saw a 190-meter guy handing him his whopper, going, "Hey, can you play key forward? Because we're out of fresh bodies."
yeah. That's it.
It's it's so it's I think that it's going to be a good year. Do you have a bold prediction for the club? And what's the headline in the newspaper at the end of the year about the Dockers? Whenever their last game is played, what is the headline the next day in the paper?
Well, I mean, I honestly hope the headline is we're winning the premiership. But look, I think in terms of bold predictions, Josh Tracy to win the Coleman and be the All Australian centre half forward. He was just lights out last year, and he now has the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think he ever didn't have the confidence. I just think by the time he got drafted, played a couple of games, this and that, like he was like, well, I'm just a rookie listed dude, I'm working my way up, but he knows he's the man, and just watching him walk around and know that he's the man, I think is going to be the thing. I think I mean, what will be the boldest prediction is we have two players that kick over 40 goals in one season, which hasn't happened in a very long time. So
Okay.
that would be something that I know as Dockers fans, if we were to able to do that, it would be unbelievable.
Okay.
Which sounds stupid, but I mean, that's how we are as a club. We just don't have guys who kick goals ever, like really, like, so yeah, we're always there and thereabouts in the goal kicking, and it's something that we struggle at. I think the last time I'm just having a look at AFL tables. The last time we had two players kicked over 50 goals in one season was the year 2000, and it was Clive Waterhouse and Tony Modra.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in 2000, and must be one of these years. No, I think that's about it. Maybe one of the 2000s we would have had Pav and someone else kick. Maybe 2006, Pav kicked 63 goals and the Wiz kicked 50. So, it doesn't happen. It's happened twice in our
Right.
lifetime that two players have kicked 50 goals in a season. Like, we're not talking about like kicking hundreds. We're talking about
Right.
50 goals
50.
plus.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we really need a big season from each of the forwards, Jai Miss and Josh Tracy. If we can get 50 out of both those guys, Dogger Jackson to kick a few, and Shea Bolton, sorry, I always want to call him Shy, but Shea Bolton to kick 30 plus, we're absolutely laughing because we know defensively we are very sound,
Right.
and
Right.
that's what our game plan's built upon, is being a very good defensive football club. But if we can kick 100 points plus, where I've forgotten the stat I had. We had like, I think if we kick like under Justin Longmuir, if we kick like, it was like 89 points. We're
Mm-hmm.
like we're like 40-0 or some absolute
Wow.
rubbish.
Wow.
I'll have to look it up again. But we're like our thing is 89 points. As soon
Mm-hmm.
as we kick 89 points, we win every game. It might have been like 19 or 20-0. It's
Okay.
stupid. It's a
Okay.
stupid stat. Yeah.
That is you know, I wanted to get to this one last topic, and then I had a couple of little trivia questions for you. What about there's going to be talk here coming very soon, once the team in Tasmania comes in.
Yep.
that they're going to, I'm sure they're going to want to figure out how do we put a 20th club into the competition. So, or maybe they fold a couple clubs into 18 again, but I doubt that's going to be what they do.
Mm, yeah.
Um, so if the decision, is made that they're going to put a third club in Perth, is that doable? Are there enough unaffiliated
Yeah.
supporters that would latch on to a third club there?
Yeah, I think the key is, and they're trying it at the moment with these North Melbourne games, is the key is actually not to have it in Perth, but to have a Southwest team. So
Bunbury?
yeah, Bunbury, Busselton, Dunsborough. Like Busselton's got a an airport that flies to Melbourne now.
Hmm.
That Margaret River, that region of of Western Australia is beautiful for a start. The Geograph Bay area, but look, you've got a lot of people live down there. So you've got a big population. It's as big as Geelong,
Hmm.
if not bigger. They're all football fans. So, you're not competing with anything else. There's no rugby league, no rugby union.
Hmm.
Um, it's just one of these things where if you were to do that, it would work really well. And the situation it would be similar to a Geelong where maybe you play, let's say you've got 12 home games, or 11 home games, sorry, you play about 11 home games, 11 home games. Let's say, yeah, 7 or 8 of them are down in Bunbury against like your North Melbourne, your Gold Coast, your GWS,
Hmm.
your St Kilda Western Bulldogs, and then you play 4 or 5 games up in Perth. The derbies would all be in Perth. The games against like a Collingwood or an Essendon or a bigger club that have big supporter bases, Hawthorn, have big supporter bases in Western Australia, so you could potentially get a fair few through the gate. And look, I think there are like the next couple of years would be the time where people do get disenchanted with their football club. Like there will be people who are Dockers fans that go, you know what? I've been a Dockers fan for 30 years or 40 years whenever they come in and we haven't
Hmm.
done jack. And I'm done. I'm done with it. And like if you're living down south and you've got an opportunity to do that, then you'd probably jump on board as well. So
Okay.
look, I'm a massive proponent for the 20th side being in Western Australia. I think it's a no-brainer. I think Darwin, unfortunately, is too hot. Let the Gold Coast play some games up there.
Yeah.
And realistically, Craig, more than anything, what they should be doing is, and rather than having Tasmania a standalone side, they should have just reallocated one of the Melbourne sides. There's too many teams in Melbourne. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It is the craziest thing how many teams there are in Melbourne. There's too
Yeah.
many. It's
Yeah.
it's stupid. It's like, and you've got to take the power base out of Melbourne. But that's why it'll always be the VFL because the power base is in Melbourne. That's where all the money is. That's where all the media is. That's all they care about's in there. So, over this side of the country, we can bitch and moan as much as we want, but you got to know where your bread's buttered. Like, I think people forget that. Like, the AFL would just like, they come to WA, they collect their money and they leave. They don't care. And like every now
Yeah.
and again, the Eagles win a flag and the Dockers go all right. And they're like, all right, good guy, good job, guys, and pat us on the head and away they go.
Yeah. So in a way that the doc, the clubs outside of Melbourne, I don't know how familiar you are with the Harlem Globetrotters. You
Yeah, we're
familiar?
like
You
the
familiar?
Washington Generals.
Yeah, the one,
Yeah. Is that what you're gonna say?
the Dockers and the Eagles and Gold Coast and them. They're all like they're all like the Washington Generals. Go be competitive. Go make the other teams have fun, but you'll lose at the end. That
Yeah.
kind of thing. What do you mean they want a flag?
Yeah. What do you mean we should play a grand final outside of
Yeah,
Victoria? No way.
yeah. Well,
Definitely
yeah.
never. It's like,
What
yeah,
what what
it's
what do you mean?
stupid.
What do you mean? Collingwood might actually have to head south on the M1 for a change?
Yeah.
And listening
Oh,
listening to
mate.
Essendon
Yeah.
piss and moan about having to play a road game in
Geelong.
Geelong, I'm just like,
Yeah.
seriously, you're enough
Yeah.
of an NFL fan that this would make sense that that just last week in the NFC Championship game, you know, Philadelphia played against Washington. Now, I'm not sure if let's just say if Washington had a larger stadium, a larger seating capacity, if the NFL if Philadelphia had one
Yeah.
home field advantage, if the NFL had told the Eagles, they can seat 6,000 more people in their stadium than you can here in Philadelphia. So we're going to play your home game in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Eagle supporters would have driven to Washington and burned their stadium to the ground before they let that happen.
But I mean, that's the thing, Craig. It's just, yeah, it's inherently the disadvantage um competition. But my favorite thing last year was your team, the Geelong Cats,
Hmm.
actually by complaining about the travel that like so what they did was they said Geelong said that the interstate sides shouldn't complain about travel because they get a certain amount of business seats. All right. Now, because of that, the AFL actually did some investigating into these business seats, which they
Hmm.
say they get 12. There's only 8 on a plane. And they actually went, oh, actually, Western Australia in particular are severely disadvantaged because of the travel. Like it
Right.
finally clicked for them. Like I don't know how we've had two AFL presidents, Richard Goyder currently, and Fitzpatrick before that, that were West Australians. Like they know what travel is. Like they get it. Like
Yeah.
I find it so funny that the like it's because of a Victorian club saying the travel isn't an issue that the AFL actually went, oh well, no, actually the travel is a massive issue and we need parity. And look, the North Melbourne things was really important for us
Hmm.
in them buying the WA games, that an extra home game against North Melbourne, fantastic. And look, in the next couple of years that might be hard because they're getting better, but just
Yeah.
to have one extra home game is just important. And that's the thing. And if the next club that comes in it happens to be in the southwest of Western Australia, would be awesome. It would be really good for the state and for a little bit more parity.
Yeah, I had a guest on recently who was born and raised in the Bunbury area. So we talked extensively about that, and that he thought it would be a good idea to
Yeah,
locate
they
the
love their
20th
footy
club
down
there.
there. It's a big footy area. It's a footy area that hasn't necessarily produced really good footy players in terms of the top end, but
Hmm.
they always have a really strong competition down there. So it's a bit weird. Like there's not that like Jai Miss is probably the best football player recently to come out of there. He's from Bustleton, but
Okay.
they're not a massive football factory, but their football competition down there is very good. The Southwest Footy League is a very good football league. So,
So
it's
do they import a lot of their players, that come in and
no, a
work
lot of
jobs
local
and such
players, but
there?
yeah, they do pay a few players here and
Okay.
there. Because Perth is only like it's 2 hours now,
Right,
just
right.
like on the road straight down. They've just opened the Bunbury bypass actually, which you drive around Bunbury now, which is pretty awesome because you just cut that off rather than having to go through the town of Bunbury or the city of Bunbury to
Yeah.
or the outskirts of it to go to Bustleton and stuff like that. So I don't know if you're interested in that, mate, but something something that's happened recently, bit of road talk.
Well, yeah, I've thought that, that one of those things that I've put on my bucket list that I think I would like to do is to someday make the trip all the way around on the M1. Um, you know, don't know if it'll ever
Yeah.
happen. I'd
Craig, I
like to get,
reckon what you got to do, man, is you just got to, when you retire,
yeah,
just come live in Australia, bro. Like Australian dollars to US dollars, you'll be like a billionaire, pretty much. Like everything. Like once you convert your money over, you'll be like, oh man, I have so many Aussie dollars. But look, I mean, like I say to a lot of people, and you'd probably know this, Australia is very similar to the US, except we don't have guns and we have good healthcare. That's pretty much it. Like it's all very similar, and even it can be a little bit more similar to the South a little bit more as well. Like people are generally quite nice and
yeah,
and things like that and get around each other and stuff like that. But look, I think it's just one of those things, isn't it?
yep, yep. So, um, I need to see a game first before I commit to that. But yeah, well,
Yeah.
I can't get my wife to watch any games on television. I don't think she's going to go for that either. But
Once she
I,
comes to Australia, she'll
yeah,
be
I,
like, "What are we doing?" Like, I've got a few friends that either their wives or husbands are from America, and
hmm
they're like, "I'm not going back."
yeah,
Like, and it is. Look, obviously, you don't hear any of the good stuff when you're overseas. You don't hear
hmm
about, oh, in the US, all this good stuff's happening. All you hear is bad things on the news, and you're just like, "Oh." So,
yeah,
it's a,
and
I don't,
a
I
lot of the
can't,
bad, yeah, that's
yeah,
true. Yeah, the
you know,
media all over is always a little suspect because
yeah.
they're not gonna show you the at the
Mate,
beginning of the
what about all the buses
newscast.
that did arrive? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
they're
Like,
not gonna that's good. Yeah, they're not gonna show you the kitty getting rescued from the tree at the beginning of the
yeah,
news. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it.
So ready for a handful of trivia questions before we get out of
Yeah,
here
go
this
on, let's
morning.
go.
Okay, so I think I'm taking it easy on you this year here, okay?
Okay.
So
All right.
these
Let's
these
see how we
five
go.
These five players all averaged more than 23 disposals a game last year for the club.
All right, let's go Brayshaw and Sarong.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon Jordan Clark, is he on there?
Yep. Yep. Sorry to see him get him gotten away from Geelong.
Yeah. Um, I'll say Hayden Young.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think that the last guy can't be Fife. Who got posies? I'm just trying to think. Maybe someone like Jeremy Sharp.
Mm-mm.
I can't think of the last guy.
Luke Ryan.
Oh, yes, of course. Takes all the kick-ins.
Yep.
God, how did I forget that one? God, good Lord. And they're all 100% efficiency because they go
Yeah.
over 30 meters.
Yeah.
So, like, he never has an inefficient kick. He can kick it directly to the opponent. Always goes like 45, 50 meters. Always efficient,
Okay.
100% efficiency.
So I will not ask you what was going to be my third question because you just answered who had the highest disposal percentage for the club. It was Luke Ryan.
Yeah,
Um,
always look around. Sometimes
so
Brendan Cox.
these four players all had more than 100 tackles for the club last year.
Oh, tackles. But
Yeah.
Brayshaw for a start.
Brayshaw.
Brayshaw and
Yep.
Sarong
Yep.
again. Those two guys.
Mm-hmm. One of them you have not met. We've not discussed today.
I reckon Switkowski.
That's one. Yep. He had 101.
I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have been Banners. Maybe someone. Oh, I don't know. I got no idea. Maybe like O'Meara, something like that.
Hayden Young. And he actually led
Hayden
the
Young
club.
again.
123.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. Youngie.
Yeah.
Good play. Bloody good.
Yep.
Hayden Young. Committed to like 2035 or something. He's got the world's longest contract. So
2035.
yeah,
Oh,
I think it's
yeah.
2033. He's got the longest contract in the AFL.
Cow.
He just signed the longest contract. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's so good, but we just need Brayshaw to sign a contract now.
Did Sarong sign a new one?
Sarong's got a longer one.
Okay.
Brayshaw's out of contract at the end of this year.
that's
So,
because I
everyone's
been
getting nervous about that, but he
Yeah,
wants to
yeah.
stay in Western Australia. His brother
Okay.
has come out on media a number of times being like he's not leaving West Australia.
Yeah.
People forget the Brayshaws are a West Australian family. They're a famous West Australian family. So
Mhm.
it's not like he's from over east and he's desperate to get back home, Adam Chera style. So nah,
But
he'll stay there. He'll sign
let's-
long term. They're just figuring it out.
But there is a team in blue and gold that has a lot of salary cap space.
Oh, but mate, if you went to the Eagles, you want to talk about riots and burning things down? Like, give me a spell.
So who led the club with 5 1/3 1%ers per game last year?
Oh, 1%ers, probably Alex Pearce, I reckon.
Yep, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, loves a 1%er, Alex Pearce. Good, very, very good fullback. Underrated. I think last year people started to finally take notice. He was on course for all Australian fullback, just about. And don't give me this James Sicily, I get 1,000 touches, because he sucks, man. No, I'm not a James Sicily fan. Even though he beat us with one arm, and everyone's talking about the Sam Mitchell masterclass. Mate, what else was he going to do? The bloke couldn't defend. Like,
Right.
put him in the forward pocket. Master. Genius. Genius, mate. Absolute genius, Sam Mitchell is. He actually is a very good coach. I don't know why I'm being rude or facetious about that, but seriously.
Well, I do know why. Because you're hoping that your club takes his club spot in the 8.
Oh, mate. Yeah, well, yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
we just beat him. That would be the main
There you
thing.
go. So, who won more games as Fremantle's senior coach, Mark Harvey or Gerard Neesham?
Oh, Nation won a few at the start. That I think Harvey, because Harvey played finals.
It was Harvey. He had 39 wins and Neesham had 32.
Yeah, Nation, very underrated coach, very modern before his time. Brought along a lot of water polo tactics into footy, and a little bit before his time. Like,
Okay.
if you were to go back and watch how the
Explain that,
Dockers
'cause
played,
I have
So
no idea what you
essentially,
mean by water polo tactics.
well, like a lot of like possess the ball, bring the ball
okay.
up, possess it, kick mark, like how Hawthorn played under Clarkson. Kick mark, take the game on. If you've got space in front of you, take it on, get it, hit the marks, kick and mark, and like let's just progress the ball down the field. Like,
Okay.
so he's a little bit of an interesting one, Jared Neesham. He's a bit underrated as our first. He was unlucky as well. The board didn't back him the way they should have. And I
Hmm.
think he would have, and he was unlucky with injuries. The Dockers won a lot of games when they first started. Like we would,
Yeah.
and like we were essentially a rabble of waffle players and guys here and there and this and that. And the AFL continually dogged us, and they were able to. I mean, we nearly won the first game against Richmond. So you just it is quite interesting actually if you watch that game, and you can watch it on YouTube. You see old school footy versus
Hmm.
the new brand, and like with a really undermanned side, the Dockers nearly won, but in the end, Richmond just kicked it long, and they had Richardson and they had Brandon Gale, and they just outmarked us, and it was
Okay.
just
Yeah.
like it was really weird. Like it was but you know it's the way it goes.
Two more for you here.
Yep.
This lone player was the only player on the club to average more than 500 meters gained per game last year.
Ooh, I reckon Clark. Not Jordan Clark.
Nope.
Jeremy Sharp?
Mm-mm.
Oh, unless it was Ryan again, just
It
kicking
was
out.
Ryan again. Yep.
Oh mate,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
just would have kicked it out 4 times. Like there you go. That's 200 meters. Like
There you go.
yeah, yeah. I do like Luke Ryan. He's a bloody good footy player, and he's a bloody good find. When
Okay.
you think he wasn't going to play like that, his mum convinced him to play VFL by bribing him, saying he should buy him a dog. She's like, just give it a crack. And he was like, oh, all right. He was like, oh, I don't know. She's like, look, I'll buy you a dog if you do it. Because he's like 18, 19, or
Yeah.
maybe 20. And bang, away you go. And now he's made an absolute bloody
Wow.
fortune out of it because he's a
Wow.
good footy player. Or
I did. I
two-time
didn't. I didn't know
All-Australian.
that backstory. That yeah. That's
Yeah. I mean, look, he's at the moment, he's the best defender. If you talk about all Australians,
hmm.
like he's the best defender the Dockers have ever had. Like he's the best Dockers defender ever. Like, and he's in the reckoning now of like top 10 Dockers players ever. Like just because he's won 2 All-Australians. Like it just, yeah, it's weird.
And he's still only 28. I mean, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. Last question. This is the
All right. What
easiest
do you got for
question.
us?
This is the easiest question that I'm giving you here. Okay.
All right.
And this happened in 1996. So who was the
Okay.
youngest player to ever play a game for the Dockers? Who was the youngest player to ever play a game for the
Oh,
Dockers? And he went on to play 78 games in Fremantle and kick 49 goals.
ooh, youngest ever. I was going to say Bell was young. Oh, Heath Black?
Mm-mm.
No, not Tony. No, it wasn't Tony Delaney. He played when he was a teenager, and he kicked 78 goals.
Kicked 78 goals in his career, not in one season. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it like a Schnell or a bloody someone like that? I'm just trying to think. In 1996, wouldn't have a clue. Who you got for us?
Stephen Coops.
Oh, Coops. Yes, of course. Ah, Stephen Coops. Yes, mate. Fun fact for you: Stephen Coops was traded to the Western Bulldogs, and with that pick, we picked David Mundy. There you
Oh
go.
wow.
Yep. There's a
Wow,
fact for you.
that's
That's 100% true. So, yeah, the Stephen Coops went to the Western Bulldogs, and with the pick, we picked up David Mundy. So at pick, I think it was about 18
and
or
he
19.
and he only
Yeah.
played 11 games for the Bulldogs and they only won two
Yeah.
games, two of those 11. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Stephen Coops. Oh, chicken, mate. Chicken Coops. He was a very good player, Stephen Coops. He's very solid.
I wonder if he's friends with Ricky Nixon.
Oh, the old chicken. The
Yeah, I figure
chicken.
if he got you in chicken coops,
Oh,
I trade messages with him online once in a while. I'll have to ask him that. I said, have you
yeah,
ever
ask
thought about
him.
having
How great
having
did
the
you
other
live in?
chicken on your show?
Yeah. Bloody hell.
So before we get out of here, we need to talk about
Yep.
the podcast and where people can find it and what you guys have on tap this year because you have what the setup that you guys have is awesome because you have a terrific relate. You're a lot like Jake Bertone with Saints TV that you have a great
Yeah.
relationship with the club where they have welcomed you in. So
Yeah.
for people who maybe have not listened to your show before,
Look,
tell us
there's
about what you do.
yeah, so we've got two podcasts. One is called The Purple Rain, which we do independently. That's a Monday afternoon. review of the game show. We also talk about how Peel are going and the Peel players, and we have listeners' questions. So if you want to jump on our socials at Purple Rain 95, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we put up a essentially ask us a question, and we generally get like 50 questions a week, like if not more. And I go
Okay.
through and I pick them out and I pick out the best ones. So yeah, if you want to do that, that would be fantastic. We also, after every home game, we do in the change rooms podcast called, and it's a vodcast as well, so you can watch it on Dockers TV. That's the Fremantle Footy Club's YouTube site, but it's called The Final Siren. With Duck and Oz, and realistically, we briefly do about a 10-minute debrief as fans how we felt the game went, and then
Hmm.
we interview two players post game, and it's really good, and it's a good way to get that quick fix straight after the game. They're generally up before the next day. It's about a 20-minute video or a 20-minute podcast, nice and easy to listen to. As a part of that as well, hopefully we'll have a few more player interviews over the next couple of months. We obviously did a big season preview kind of thingy review at the end of last year with David Mundy and Josh Tracy. So that's out on Dockers TV as well if you want to give that a watch. It goes for about 55 minutes, and you get to see me in they stitch us up with the view, like the fish lens or whatever it is. So I'm a big boy, but I look like a real big boy on the camera. They say the camera adds 20 pounds. I
Yeah.
reckon it may be at about 20 stone to me. It was just like holy dooly. But yeah, and our TikTok, everything's the same except for our TikTok is at the Purple Rain 95. So if you want to jump on our TikTok as well, and
Okay.
Oz often does post game little videos, especially the away games. He'll do a little 10-minute video, how he's feeling, things like that. So just a little instantaneous reaction. But we've potentially got some big news down the pipeline. So
Okay.
stay tuned to the Purple
Okay.
Rain
Now,
because we've got some potential big news. So yeah,
are
we're
you
just
guys able?
trying.
Do you guys travel to the away games at all, or you
No,
guys?
no, it's too
Okay.
hard,
Okay.
man. Too hard. Like Oz has
Okay.
got three kids. I got one.
Yeah.
We've both got wives that
Yeah.
I don't know if
Who
but either of them really
they
appreciate our
they
love for
they
the Dockers
they
because the Dockers suck, man. So it's
they go they support you doing it locally, but as soon as you start to say,
yeah.
"Honey, my flight for the Gold Coast leaves in about an hour and a half, and I won't be back for a couple
Mm.
of days," and they go, "I cancel those tickets."
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, we went over for the Collingwood semi-final.
Yeah.
That's the only game that we've been away. We'd
Okay.
love to do an away trip. It's just, yeah, it's a bit hard at the moment. I've got a young family. Oz's
Right.
family are a bit
Right.
older. Like one of his sons is, I think he's turning 17 or 18.
Okay.
In the next couple of so like he's got a couple of older kids and one young kid, and I've got like Molly. I'm just looking at her at the monitor now. She's just 18 months tomorrow. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
you've been there,
That's.
Craig.
Oh yeah. I
You're
mean,
an
I
expert at this. You know
I
what it's
stepped
like. It's yeah.
I stepped away from coaching when my youngest was born because as you know as a teacher
Yeah, you just don't
I
have any time.
decided you know what, I liked hanging out with my own kids after school rather than somebody else's.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
man, 100%. It's awesome. It's so great being a dad. So,
Yeah,
you know,
it
I
is.
love it.
And I don't my youngest is now 24, so I
Yeah.
don't and my closest kid lives about a 9.5 hour drive away. So
So
yeah.
why not move to Australia, mate? What's 9.5 hours versus bloody a 16-hour flight? It's all the same.
Well,
Once you're there, you're there. Once you're on the road
like I said,
or in the air.
I couldn't, and I'll share this again. I've tried to get my wife interested in watching footy, and maybe you can mention this to him when you get to chance to sit down and talk with him at a game. But I was trying everything I could think of to get her to want to sit down and watch footy because there were a couple baseball players years ago that she just thought they were dreamy. Oh, I love Grady Sizemore. He's so cute. And I thought, yeah, okay, let's try that same thing
Yeah.
with footy. So I found, and this is before he made the trip to Fremantle. I had found there was a training session that I found a news story on where the Hawks were training at the beach and they're budgie smugglers. And there's Jaeger O'Meara, and I'll admit Jaeger O'Meara is a handsome guy. And I
Yeah. Good
thought
looking rooster.
this might spark her interest.
Yeah.
Not a bit.
No spark.
Not a bit.
Oh, well.
So yeah, so I've not convinced her. She had told me then, well, I'll watch 1/4 of a game. So I tried to get people to, recommend 1/4
Mm.
of one game to watch. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to force her
You
to do
gotta
that.
you gotta find something else that's a bit more niche for like her. So if she likes reality TV, there's a very, very popular show down here called Married at First Sight,
Oh,
and
she
it is
watches
the
it.
most
She watches
it,
it.
it is the
The
most
Australian
like
one, yeah.
I don't watch it anymore because I watched one season and it was like watching a car accident in slow motion.
Yeah.
And like it's you feel embarrassed for everyone. It's like watching The Office. Like you get this real like you're like, oh my God, like I'm so embarrassed for every person on this
Yeah.
show.
Oh,
But like,
she
yeah,
watches the the Amazing Race from Australia, Survivor from Australia. She's watching that one. Yeah, she loves those
yeah.
reality shows. I watched the Amazing Race. I think the first season it was on because I've got a degree in geography. I kind of enjoyed that,
Mm,
but then it just
yeah.
I kind
Mate,
of lost
sports
interest
our
in it.
reality. Mate,
Well,
sports just one big
well,
reality
and
TV show. So
the thing
yeah.
is, the only I'll watch the Cleveland Browns mainly because I just want to see how can they screw up this week. And I'll watch the Ohio State football team and I'll watch the Naval Academy's football team generally. But
Mm.
I'm not that NFL fan that sits down on a Sunday here and
And watches
watches
every
every
game.
single game it's on. I
Yeah.
don't do that. I'll watch every game of every round of footy, and
Mm.
now I'm watching way more cricket than just about anybody else in the United States right now. There's
Yeah.
I'm watching an above average amount. I mean, sure there I know there's more people watching
Definitely.
more
You
than
if
I
you're
do.
watching 1 minute, it's above average, I'd
Yeah,
say,
but
mate.
I mean I'm 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 tuning in and
You're in the,
watching
I would
the
say you're probably in the 90th percentile for cricket
yeah.
watching in America.
Do I move up a couple of points if I was watching the IPL draft stuff
Oh,
a couple months back
that's
where they were
that's that's big dog stuff. Like that's
that
I don't even watch that stuff. I don't watch
that was
IPL.
interesting to see how they did that.
Yeah, the bidding on it. It's quite
Yeah.
funny actually. My sister-in-law's just come back from playing in the IHL, the Indian Hockey League. She played over there, and it was
Ice
really,
hockey?
really. No, no, just field hockey. She plays
Okay,
field
feel
hockey for
okay.
Australia.
Okay.
So, no, no, no. She's a really good. She plays for Australia, and she's a really
Okay.
good hockey player. But like she played over there, and she said she had a great time. And there's only
Hmm.
four teams, but she got an all right, like, all right salary for doing it. Nothing crazy for a hockey player. I mean, hockey players
Yeah.
get paid nothing anyway. So, she just had a month in India and it was really good. So I think that kind of thing will get bigger and bigger. And I think the team that owned their team also owned like two IPL teams. So they're really,
Okay.
really good and they knew how to
Okay.
look after the players. So yeah, it's really cool. I think, India's they love their sport and they've got all
Yeah.
these billionaires that are like, yeah, man, I'll have a sports team, whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I mean,
so yeah, they're
I mean, I watched the IPL. I mean, I watch, there's and there's a connection with that with the Major League Cricket here.
yeah,
I decided to, that I was gonna, I did select the, when I decided to start following the BBL a couple of years ago, I decided to take the same kind of route that I did in choosing to support Geelong and go with kind of a small town. So I decided to, support the Hurricanes, and that worked out pretty
oh,
well
the
this year as
Hurricanes,
well.
mate.
So
Hey, year for purple, bro.
yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly.
talking about. It's the purple year. So
It could be. It
not
very
very
well could be.
successful
Yeah.
teams are in purple. There's not too many successful teams in purple. So this could be the year of the purple.
Yeah. Well, let's hope they are successful. Um, except for I think round one this year. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they can go 22-1. I'd be completely okay with that.
Uh,
But you are the glass is definitely half full and filling a little bit more in your eye right now, right?
yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
not coming in with a lot of
It's win now
trepidation.
time.
Yeah.
Look, I think the thing will be if we lose this year, it's like if we don't make the finals this year, it's okay. It's get rid of Longmuir. Who do we bring in? Maybe
Hmm.
John Longmire, maybe someone like
Hmm.
that. Who knows? There was whispers that he was potentially going to come in and coach at the Eagles at one stage. Give a Godfather offer and go from there. But look, it's one of those things, Craig, where I think, yeah, it's finals or bust. We've got to see improvement in terms of winning games in the end. Like that's the end metric that matters the most. But I'm very confident in this team. Like you said, on paper, it's a very good team. Don't win games on paper, but I think we've got that physical toughness and that ability. And look, from more reports, we are training the house down. And you got a couple of insiders down at the club that have said the boys are looking
Yeah.
the absolute best they've looked in a long time. So
Yeah.
we're as a fan base, we're just quietly up and about.
And one thing I forgot to ask you about, and this will be the last thing that I ask you here. I did
Yep.
read that there's some discussion about whether or not Alex Pierce is going to be continuing as team captain.
Yeah,
If
he'll
you
be
if
captain.
you you think
The,
so?
the
Okay.
players love him. It's a player
Okay.
voted thing.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
people think that like their opinion matters. It's the players that's they
yeah,
vote in the captain. Like, there's no weird stuff about it. The players
yeah,
vote in the captain. Alex Pierce is the captain. They'll
yeah,
probably vote him in again because he is a bloody good leader. Like
yeah.
he's a
There
bit of an
was.
alternative dude. He likes
Hmm.
alternative music and he drinks bone broth and stuff like that. But like he dead set, he is an absolute legend. So, you're not going to find anyone better than him. Caleb Sarong and Andy Brayshaw, not Hamish Brayshaw, that's his brother. And Andy Brayshaw will both be leaders in the future. Their time is probably in the
It's
next
coming.
couple of years.
Yeah,
It's coming. And it's yeah, look, let's just chill out on
yeah. That
Alex
because
Pierce
that's I
being
just
captain.
I read that article
Yeah.
from a couple days ago over on Code Sports that was
Mm,
asking, is this the time to make that switch? And they
yeah.
mentioned Sarong as a possible replacement for him. But yeah, yeah.
Just having the C next to your name doesn't mean you're a leader or not. Like you've got to lead in every different way, and leadership isn't just being the captain. Leadership's going in and getting the hard ball, or
Hmm.
maybe playing your best game when the season's on the line. Like you want to see some leaders. Look at the stats of the last 4 rounds and blokes who absolutely fell off a cliff. That's not leadership to me. Leadership's when you need to win. It's when it's winning time, you win, and that's the tough thing.
All right. Well, hey,
Alrighty, Craig.
Doug, I do appreciate you taking time to sit down and chat with
Easy,
me this
mate.
evening.
Yeah. Oh,
You
why
go
it's so
make sure
hot in
that.
this room, mate? Sweating my ring off
Sorry
down here.
about that.
That's all
I
right,
actually
mate. No, 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 none of your issues,
I had to
mate. It's
put
my house.
I had shorts on initially today. I had to right before we started. I had to put long pants on because it's let's see.
Yeah.
Right now it is. I'll tell you. It's -4 here right now.
Yeah. We got
So
24 degrees and it's 10:30 at night, mate. So,
yeah.
just not getting that respite's the thing. Like you need to get down to 18, 19, but we'll
Now
crank the aircon tonight and
m-
sit under the
Monday
aircon again and go from
Monday
there.
we're going to be all the way up to 10 Celsius. So
Nice. I
I
think
will
Wednesday we're 38, 39. So
I
just yeah. It's
I was
it's I got a kid in my class who's moved over from Alaska. He's an Aussie that went over to Alaska, came back. I said,
holy
"What's better,
crap.
the cold or?" And he'd had -50. That's
Hmm.
like the coldest he'd experienced. I said, "What's better, the hot or the cold?" And he's like, "Definitely the hot. Like it's like the hot's you can bear the hot at least." He's like, "When it gets that cold, you can't do anything. You just stay inside, and that's it. And
Hmm.
I mean, that's the truth, isn't it?" All right, Craig,
Wow.
we better
Okay.
wrap this up, mate.
Yep,
It's been
you
a
bet,
while.
man.
All right.
I'd love to hear
Uh,
the story about how he got to Alaska, though. That'd be awesome to hear.
I
Okay,
think it
well,
was, yeah, something to do with mining.
okay.
We're experts in mining over here, mate. We're good at
That's
digging stuff
true.
out of the ground.
That's true. All right, man. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Craig.
Cheers.
I'll talk to you later, mate.
You
See
bet.
ya.
Bye-bye. All right, Duck. Thanks so very much for sitting down to chat today. While it's not a Fremantle shirt, my daughter went to a school university that their team colors were purple and white. So I thought, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So, folks, I appreciate you all checking out the episode. Duck, you've been a great friend of the podcast over the last several years, and I can't thank you enough for that. Again, remember, you can find everything about the show over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. I do hope you'll subscribe over on Rumble, on YouTube as well. Give me a follow on my social media. All those links are on my website. If you got an idea for a great guest, and remember, I love telling stories about this wonderful game from all directions, all avenues. If somebody has a terrific story that they want to share about the game, I would love to get that story out for people to listen to. So shoot me an email at ayankonthefooty@gmail.com or sign up on the guest list or leave me a note over at my website as well. And if you enjoy the show, take a moment and leave a review as well. That would really, really help. And well, if you want to help out the show, you can also click on that Buy Me Coffee page button as well, or check out my merch over on my Redbubble page, which is linked as well. Ladies and gentlemen, check up on your friends, make sure they're okay. If you need to speak to somebody, please don't hesitate to do that. The world is an extraordinarily much better place with you in it. So if you need to talk to somebody, if you need help, please take care of that, okay? Please do that. All right. All those numbers are in my show notes for every single episode of the podcast. So if you need to talk, please go ahead and do that. Look out for one another. Check up on those friends. Get out and have that coffee. Okay. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, may your dribble kick never hit the post. I will catch you later. And this has been episode 367, the seventh of my preview episodes for 2025 about the Fremantle Dockers. And again, head over to my website and get signed up. And that would be really, really wonderful, folks. And until next time, cheers.